Alright, so it's going to be my review for The Straight Story from 1999. Started watching this because I was doing a David Lynch retrospective. One of the podcasts I listen to is now playing, and so if you've been following some of these reviews, I've been following that podcast. They've been watching David Lynch movies, and so I've been watching all of the David Lynch movies that I haven't seen, and this was on that list. I've seen pretty much all of David Lynch's movies, and this was one of the few that I hadn't seen. And it's very different from what he usually does. He's, a very surrealistic filmmaker, and this is a very, very straightforward drama. So I'll just talk about it a little bit. The plot is very simple, and then I'll kind of go into some other details. So this movie follows a man, let's say his name's Alvin, and he's pretty old, late 70s, I think early 80s. I don't know if they give his exact age, but he's really old. He's having hip problems, and he lives in a town called Lawrence, Iowa, and he gets a call that his brother had a stroke, and his brother lives in Wisconsin, so he plans to go see him. He says it's been a long time. He hasn't seen his brother for quite a while and wants to go see him. Try to make amends for things that they might have said to each other in the past that separated them and caused them to be on non-talking terms for so long. And so like I said, he's pretty old. He's in ill health himself. He can't see very well, so he can't drive. He doesn't want to take a bus. He wants to do it on his own pretty much, so he doesn't want to take a bus, get a car ride, and he can't drive his own car. And so what he does, he decides to ride his lawnmower to Wisconsin. It's a couple hundred miles. It was like 300-400 miles. So he's in about the middle of Iowa, going to just across the border to Wisconsin. And so that's what he does. He decides to take his lawnmower across the state to go see his brother. Pretty straightforward. He has a daughter named Rose. She's played by Sissy Spacek, and she has some sort of mental disability. A little bit. They don't say exactly what it is, because coming from Alvin's perspective, they never say. He says there's nothing wrong with her. She's just a little bit slow, but she clearly has some sort of like speech impediment and maybe a little bit of mental faculties are a little bit slow. But Sissy Spacek does a good job. Apparently, the actual real Rose said she did a really good job. So I didn't mention this, but it's actually based on a real story. So this guy, Alvin Straight, did this in real life in 1994. So it was made in 1999, but it takes place in 94. And I always kind of wondered why it's called The Straight Story. That's the guy's name. His name's Alvin Straight, and he actually really did this. So it's pretty true to what happened, but obviously I think there's some embellishments here and there with the stories. And so for as straightforward of a story that is, it's really good. It really had me captivated the whole time. I was really interested. For something that's that basic of a story, I was surprised how much I liked this movie for how simple it is. And I just kept thinking, we'll leave it to David Lynch, one of the most surrealistic experimental filmmakers, to make this story interesting. And it's like a super straightforward character study drama, and it's done really, really well. So just the visuals are great. There's these sweeping aerial shots that are beautiful. The music's really good. It's really twangy and interesting. That's also done by Angelo Badalamenti, who David Lynch works with quite a bit, especially in Twin Peaks. I was surprised to see that he did this music, because usually he does like jazzy music with a little synth, and this is very kind of bluegrassy with twangy music, but very good and works very well with the theme of the movie. So if you don't know me, I'm actually from Iowa, and this movie takes place in Iowa. So it was, I think for me, I liked a lot of it because it reminded me of home. This was like a great portrayal of what you would see in the middle of Iowa, middle Midwest. I could see this maybe in like Kansas too, Missouri, some of these Midwest states. But knowing this was in Iowa, that he's driving across that state, it really resonated with me a lot. I think after seeing this, I thought this was probably one of the best portrayals of Iowa that I've ever seen in a movie. No joke. At least for the characters, the people that he meets. He meets all these people along the way, and they're all super nice. They're all really helpful, and he goes through all these one-road towns, and it is what you would see driving through Iowa, and it's just done in a really, really great way. I think David Lynch did an amazing job of capturing that, the feeling that you would have kind of going through one of those states. It really worked for me. There's a part where he goes by, or he's driving his tractor, and he sees a bunch of people on bikes driving by, and they don't say it specifically in the movie, but I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be RAGBRAI, which is this bicycle. It's not really a race. It's kind of a race, but it goes from one end of the state to the other, from the west coast, the west side of the state to the east side, and you're supposed to dip your tires into the Missouri River and then into the Mississippi. I'm pretty sure that's the group of riders he sees, and just kind of knowing that is what he's running into is kind of cool. Stuff like that was really interesting to me. Like I said, this movie is shot really well, great sweeping aerials, and then the acting is amazing. So I haven't mentioned his name yet, but Richard Farnsworth is the actor that plays Alvin, and I think I've seen him in a couple movies, but nothing really struck out at me right away when I saw him. I didn't recognize him, but he has a very interesting story. This actor, he started out as a stuntman, mainly actually riding horses as a double, and then started doing stunts and was a very, very well respected stuntman in the industry. And then he started acting really late in his life. So he's actually nominated for an Oscar in 1979 for a movie called Comes a Horseman as a supporting role. And then for this movie, he was nominated for an Oscar again as the best leading actor. And at 79 years old and 79 and a half, he was and still is the oldest person to ever be nominated for a best leading actor Oscar. So that's really cool. That kind of shows his performance. I think it's very well deserved. His performance is great, and he's very convincing. And at first I was like, I really buy him being in this pain as this older guy in ill health with hip problems and leg problems. And then I started learning about the actor, and I was even kind of more impressed because Richard Farnsworth, the actor himself, had been going through bone cancer. I think it was bone cancer, some sort of cancer, and his hips were really, really bad, and that's kind of why he is struggling with this during the movie too. So the actual actor is probably in a lot of pain throughout the movie, and it really translates. It's really amazing that he could do this performance while being in that kind of pain. So this is really sad too. Learning about this, he was nominated for his Oscar, and then I think a year after this was made, so in 2000, because he was going through so much pain with the cancer that was in his body, it was just kind of eating him away. He is going through so much pain, he committed suicide. He actually shot himself, I think with a shotgun, because of the pain. So it's really sad. I don't know if he was there for the actual Oscars. I don't know the exact dates when that happened, but it kind of just kind of goes to show you how kind of crazy his performance is in this movie, that how good it is, and his portrayal is so great, and he's going through this intense amount of pain throughout. So it's a really commendable performance. So had to kind of get that in there. Like I said, I was surprised how much I like this movie. I'm giving it a 4.25 out of 5. I think it's one of the best portrayals of Iowa that I've seen. The kind of people that you would meet there, just kind of driving through it. And it's also just kind of a great story. There's some intense moments when he talks about being in World War II with another veteran. It's a great moment. And then just overall kind of what he tells to people on his journey. And he just wants to be with his brother again. He doesn't care what happened to him in the past. He just wants to go see him and be like they were before when they were younger and stuff. It's just a really, really good story, really well made, exceptionally well made. I don't think you could take this basic of a premise and do it any better. I think that's probably the biggest problem that it has, is trying to get people interested in it. So one movie I thought about was like Nebraska. It's a very similar story in a more recent movie when Bruce Dern is driving across Nebraska to go see a family member or something. It's kind of the same situation. You have to be in a certain mood, or there you have to have a real reason to see that kind of movie because it seems so simple. A couple other things that I thought of was the movie Into the Wild. And basically because of the way he's kind of traveling, just here it's across the state and meeting people, but that has that very similar quality in Into the Wild with Emile Hirsch's character. He's traveling across some of the country to get up to Alaska and meeting people along the way. Very, very similar to that. So, yeah, I think that'll be it. It's a great character study, great performance by Richard Farnsworth. Kind of see him as an actor and what he can do. A great installment for Lynch. It's very out of his wheelhouse, but it's up there for one of the movies I like of his. Just a very different category. So again, 4.25 out of 5. I'd definitely recommend it. I'd recommend it to anybody, but I'm especially recommending it to like anybody from Iowa or David Lynch fans. If you're from Iowa, check this out. See if it resonates with you as much as it did for me. If you're a David Lynch fan, of course you gotta check it out. One of his, he doesn't have a ton of movies, so go and check this one out. All right.